This is one of the longest ride requests I've ever seen while driving rideshare. And I've seen a handful of others, not to this length, but sometimes over 100 miles or over 200 miles. So first off, who is requesting these rides? And most important, are they ever worth it? Let's discuss. So over my 11 years of driving rideshare, I've seen a handful of these unicorn, ridiculously long rides. And here in Minnesota now, where we have guaranteed rates during period 3 when transporting a passenger, these would be fantastic rides. But still, I will never accept these rides because I know I'm not going to get a return ride. And here's what our metro of Minneapolis and St. Paul looks like. Typically throughout the day, I'm staying within the 694, 494 interstate loop, no further usually than about 15 miles from either downtown Minneapolis or downtown St. Paul. But occasionally I will accept requests up to Anoka, Minnesota. I'll accept requests over to Stillwater, Minnesota, requests down to Lakeville, Minnesota, or even over to Chaska, Minnesota. And each of these cities is about 30 miles from downtown Minneapolis. And I'll accept requests out to those areas because I know there is a high likelihood that I will receive a return request to bring me back within the regular area that I drive in. And sometimes when I accept requests out to these areas, I might have to wait a longer period of time, sometimes up to an hour, but that return request will be worth it. And again, these requests are worth it to me because I drive in Minnesota, where we have guaranteed rates during period 3 when transporting a passenger. So I know I'm going to get compensated properly for all of these requests. But also we have other population centers throughout the state. There's Duluth, Minnesota, which is just over 150 miles from downtown Minneapolis. There's Rochester, which is nearly 90 miles from downtown Minneapolis. And there's also St. Cloud, which is nearly 70 miles from downtown Minneapolis. And I have received a request to each of these cities, but I have never accepted those requests because I cannot guarantee a return trip. If I could guarantee a return trip, especially here in Minnesota with our guaranteed rates, I would accept these in an instant. The longest request I have ever accepted was actually back in 2015 within my first year of driving for Uber and Lyft. And back then, there were no upfront fares, so we had no idea where we were going. So I had no idea when I accepted this request where I was headed. And it was a request from St. Louis Park, Minnesota, all the way out to Monticello, Minnesota. The total distance was 44.8 miles with a duration of 56 minutes and 7 seconds. And I was paid $54.73 for this ride. This was back when rates were pretty good. Now this was a great request, but I do remember that I ended up, after I dropped that passenger off, I waited in Monticello for about 30 minutes and figured, screw it, I need to head closer to the cities. I maybe could have waited longer and actually received a request, but this was within the first year of UberX operating here in Minnesota, so demand was quite a bit lower than it is now. After that half hour of waiting, I ended up driving to Rogers, Minnesota, which was 20 miles towards the cities, so I had to eat that 20 miles entirely. Again, this was a great request in terms of hourly rate, but in terms of actual business operation, needing to eat those 20 miles, it is not worth it. So that's the longest ride I've ever given, but back to some of those longer requests that I have received that I've never accepted. Here's an UberX request from Brooklyn Center, Minnesota to Rochester, Minnesota, an hour and a half in duration and a 94-mile trip, and the upfront fare and this predated guaranteed rates here in Minnesota was $68.77. This ride was not worth it at all. Here's another UberX request from Minneapolis to St. Cloud, Minnesota, a total duration of 1 hour and 8 minutes and over 68 miles, and an upfront fare of $75.09, so not a bad upfront fare. On Lyft, here's a request from St. Paul, Minnesota to Rochester, hour 14 in duration, 73.7 miles, an upfront fare of $53.23, not worth it at all. Here's one from Minneapolis to Duluth, Minnesota, $106 upfront fare for a 164-mile trip. Here's one from the Mall of America to Virginia, Minnesota, $151 for a 203-mile trip. Here's one from Minneapolis to Spicer, Minnesota, an upfront fare of $145.16 for a 112-mile trip. This would absolutely be worth it if I could get a return ride. Here's another one I saw just this week from Lino Lakes, Minnesota to Duluth. This one would be worth it too if I could actually get a return request. 140 miles and an upfront fare of $186. And I say these upfront fares are pretty solid, but again, here in Minnesota, they really don't matter. We are paid guaranteed rates during period 3 when transporting a passenger. So for all of these longer requests, we would actually get paid more than what that upfront fare is. But again, they're not worth it here because you can't guarantee that return ride. And lastly, again, here's that long request that I received years ago on Lyft, 348 miles and an upfront fare of $267. And today here in Minnesota, under the guaranteed rate structure, I get paid nearly $560 for this request. A great request, but again, I don't have a return request. I can't accept it. And these are just the requests that I've seen where I've gotten screenshots. I've received many more of these longer requests, and the overall arching theme is they're never worth it. They're great requests, especially here in Minnesota, but we're operating small businesses. We can't eat all of that return mileage. We just can't. And especially in markets where you're getting paid upfront fares, some of these upfront fares could be terrible, so they're definitely not worth it. And also, who is requesting these rides? I've never accepted one of these longer rides, but I can see the upfront fare. I have no idea what the passenger's paying. Maybe sometimes they're paying double what that upfront fare is. I could see needing a ride in a pinch sometimes, but I personally could never justify requesting longer rides like these. But what do all of you think? What do you think of these long ride requests? What's the longest you've ever received? What's the longest ride you've ever given? Especially in a market like, say, California, where you might actually receive a return trip on these longer rides. Also here in Minnesota, I'm typically only willing to go about 30 miles from downtown areas of Minneapolis and St. Paul. In your market, how far are you willing to go? Again, for me personally, these long requests here in Minnesota would absolutely be worth it if I could guarantee a return request, but since I can't do that, I never accept these requests. And especially under upfront fares, before guaranteed rates were implemented here, I would always laugh at these requests. If you've yet to download the Solo app to help you manage your rideshare business and earn more, our referral link is in the description. We also have a free newsletter, and the link to sign up for that is in the description as well. If you've yet to watch my previous video on making $300 a day here in Minnesota, be sure to check that one out. Thanks again for watching, and drive safe. Thanks.